Hello, my name is Logan Barnett, and today I'm going to be demonstrating Unity's GUI system. What I'd like to do today is make the username of this application show up and allow myself to edit it using a text field. The username should have a label next to it to indicate that it is indeed a username, and then there will be a text field in which you can type the username. And if we have time, we'll do a little bit extra and persist it. So the first thing we need to do is start by making an object that will hold on to our GUI script, in which case I'm going to create a game object named GUI, and I'm going to then add a component to it that I will name username. And I prefer things in C#, so that's what I will add. Now let's open up the script in MonoDevelop. Now, Unity's GUI system uses the onGUI callback. We don't need update or start, at least not at the moment. So we can get rid of those to avoid some clutter and make onGUI. Now, there is the GUI class itself, which does have a label that we can call, but it takes a position and content, or possibly other things. We're not going to use that one though, because we don't want to state the dimensions of it. We want to automatically lay it out. So we're going to use the GUILayout class, which also has a label method. And we should be able to pass it some text. For now, we're just going to hard code it and see what it does. And flip back over to Unity. Are we saved? We're saved. The scripts have compiled, so now we should be able to hit play, and we should see that username is showing up here, which is great. But it's not a text field, which is what we actually need. So now that we've shown username, let's go on to add a text field. And we will also pass it some hard-coded text. Dress this up a little bit. And flip it back. So now as you can see, there's the username label and a text field for us to change. However, when I try to make changes to it or type, nothing happens. It is currently stuck because we're passing in the hard-coded username. So let's fix that. So we can pass in a variable and expect it to change. We'll give it a default. We use my name for the default. Pass it in here. And how GUI's text field system works, and how most of the GUI system works, is it returns the actual value that you passed into it, but what it returns is the modified value, or potentially modified. So what you need to do is assign that back to the original value if you want it to persist. So now as you can see, it says my name, and I can delete it. I can add other names if I want, etc., etc. However, as you can see, they are lined up vertically. We probably want those to be horizontal. It probably makes more sense that way. So let's try that. GUILayout has a begin horizontal and end horizontal method that we can call, and everything that goes in between those is laid out horizontally. That should do it. Now we flip back over, and voila, we're now in horizontal mode here. You can change the username around still. Everything looks good. However, this can make your code look really ugly really fast when you start nesting lots of things instead of begin horizontals and begin verticals. What I recommend is to use curly braces to help you out here. So I'm going to put a curly brace here at the end of the line. This is going to create an artificial scope for us, much like how you do with an if statement or for loops or anything like that. And I'm going to put an end at the end of the curly brace at the beginning of the end horizontal. Now what this means is if I happen to comment out a horizontal, and this will happen pretty often while you're trying to figure out which ones you're trying to use, you'll see that it immediately causes a compiler error. Like MonoDevelop is detecting it right now and underlining it, saying that something's wrong here. So it lets you know right away that there's a problem, and you don't have to wait until runtime. Same thing if I comment it out here. MonoDevelop's not detecting it, but if I switch over to Unity, it'll see that there's an error. So we'll know to put this back in. Also, your text editor will probably favor being indented now that it's inside one of these blocks, which also makes it easier to read. So flip back over, everything compiles, run it again, and everything seems to work. So for our next step, let's make it persist. So what we should do is load up something on start from the persistent data path. Persistent data path is an automatic place where Unity stores files. It's a safe place to write to. You're usually guaranteed to have write permissions there from all but the most restricted environments. And I believe this works cross-platform as well. So we will start by loading a file from the persistent data path. And I am going to import the system.io namespace, or use it. And then we have the stream reader available to us. So I can do a new stream reader, and it takes a path. That's the one we want to use. So we will do applications persistent data path plus the name of the file here. We'll just call it username.txt, and that should work. Typically you want to surround this in a using so that the stream is closed automatically, even if an exception is thrown. And we can say, here's our stream reader. Now we can take our stream reader, read to end, and we can say our username is equal to that, trim. We don't want actually extra white space or padding in there. The file may not be there in the first go, so let's see what happens if we try that. It still compiles, but if we run it, we get a file not found exception, and it blows up, and it makes a nasty error in here. We don't want to ignore errors. So what we'll do is put this in try catch. And what exception did we get? We got a file not found exception. So that's what we'll catch. And when that happens, we'll say something like this, which our default could be, and probably should be. And let's try that again. So it says enter username here. Because it didn't find the file, we can still change things, but if we reload it, we'll find out that it doesn't actually change anything. This is because we have not set up the saving of it yet. So one thing that we can do is we can say the GUI class has a changed method, property. We can force it to false because we don't care about anything else that changed before it, and then we can say if the GUI changed, then we will write all the text out to the appropriate file. There's the file class, write all text, and just give it the path, which is the application persistent data path plus the username.text, and then we want to give it the actual contents, which will just be the username in this case. And so every time it changes, it will write out the username to a file. If this were a larger file, you might want to batch the changes, not write them out every change, make the user hit a save button, put it in a thread, something. But for our simple example, this will do just fine. So now, if I change this to be my name, and close it, and reopen it, you'll see it persists. I'm using the keyboard shortcuts, so the P persisted. There, it works. Now, some things that we can do to clean this up. I forgot that the file class has a read all text, so we can use that instead. Now you see me typing this persistent data path stuff a lot. That's something that we can also take a look at for fixing. But let's test it real quick. Okay, it looks like it's there. We need to remove that file so that we can test it, so I'm going to fire up a shell really quick. On OS 10, the persistent data path happens to be in the library, caches, and I believe it goes under whatever. You know, I'm not actually sure. But we can always output it if we aren't. So use a debug log. Oops. Hit play. Looks like that's where it is, because I'm default company. So I can remove it from here. There's the username text. It's gone. It still works just fine. Great. Other things that we could do to clean this up would be to create a helper for this. By making a property that we'll call username file path. And its getter will return this. And now we're no longer repeating ourselves, and we can do this anywhere we want in this class. Oops. erase the contents. Test it out. It's my name. Still my name. That's great. And that concludes this tutorial. Thank you very much.